Stuff from the Nile by Agatha Christie, Chapter 10. On the Monday morning, various expressions of delight, appreciation were heard on the deck of the Karnak. The steamer was moored to the bank and a few hundred yards away. The morning sun was striking it. It was a great temple carved on the face of the rock. 4 console figures hewn out of the cliff, entirely over the Nile and faced the rising sun. Cornelia Robson said incoherently, "Oh, Monsieur Perrault, isn't it wonderful? I mean, they're so big and peaceful. Looking at them makes me feel that one's so small and rather like an insect. And that nothing matters very much, really, does it?" Mr. Fanthorpe, who was standing nearby, murmured, "Very impressive." "Grand, isn't it?" said Simon Doyle, strolling up. He went on confidently to Perrault. "You know, I'm not much of a fellow for temples and sightseeing and all that, but a place like this sort of gets you, if you know what I mean. If you know what I mean. Those old pharaohs must have been wonderful fellows." The other had drifted away. Simon lowered his voice. I'm no end glad we came on this trip. It's cleared things up. Amazing why it should, but there it is. Lynette's got her nerve back. She says it's because she actually faced the business at last. "I think that it is very probable," said Perrault. "She says that when she actually saw Jackie on the boat, she felt terrible. And then, suddenly, it didn't matter anymore. We're both agreed that we won't try to dodge anyone. We'll just meet her on her own ground and show her this ridiculous stunt of hers doesn't worry us a bit. It's just damned bad from that's all. She thought she'd got us badly rattled, but now, well, we just aren't rattled anymore. That ought to show her," said. "Yes," said Perrault thoughtfully. "So that's splendid, isn't it?" "Oh, yes." Lynette came along the deck. She was dressed in a soft shade of apricot linen. She was smiling. She greeted Perrault with no particular enthusiasm. Just gave him a cool nod and then drew her husband away. Perrault realized with a momentary flicker of amusement that he had not made himself popular by his critical attitude. Lynette was used to unqualified admiration of all she was or did. Hercule Poirot had sinned noticeably against this creed. Mrs. Allerton, joining him, murmured, "What a difference in that girl." She looked worried and not very happy at Asson. Today she looked so happy that one might almost be afraid she was fey. Before Perrault could respond as he meant, the party was called to order. The official dragoman took charge, and the party was led ashore to visit Abu Simbel. Perrault himself fell into step with Pennington. "Is it your first visit to Egypt?" "Yes," he asked. "Why, no. I was here in 1923. That is to say, I was in Cairo. I've never been this trip up to the Nile before. You came over on the Carmanic." I believe at last. So Madame Doyle was telling me. Pennington shot a shrewd glance in his direction. "Why, yes, that is so," he admitted. I wondered if you had happened to come across some friends of mine who were aboard the Washington Smiths." I can't recall anyone of that name. The boat was full, and we had bad weather. A lot of passengers hardly appeared, and in any case, the voyage is so short, one doesn't get to know who is on board and who isn't. Yes, that is very true. What a pleasant surprise. You're running into Madame Doyle and her husband. You had no idea that you were married. No, Mrs. Doyle had written me, but the letter was forwarded on, and I only received it some days after our unexpected meeting in Cairo. Death on the Nile by Agatha. You have years, I understand. Why should I say I have, Monsieur Perrault? I've known Lynette Ridgway since she was just a cute little thing, so high. He made an illustrating gesture. Her father and I were lifelong friends, a very remarkable man, Malhuish Ridgway, and a very successful one. His daughter comes into a considerable fortune, I understand. Pardon, perhaps it is not delicate what I say there. Andrew Pennington seems slightly amused. Oh, that's pretty common knowledge. Yes, Lynette's a wealthy woman. I suppose, though, that the recent slump is bound to affect any stocks, however sound they may be. Pennington took a moment or two to answer. He said at last, that of course, is it true? Is as true a certain context? The position was very difficult in these days. Perrault murmured, I should imagine, however, that Madame Doyle has a keen business head. That is so. Yes, that is so. Lynette is a clever, practical girl. They came to a halt. The guide proceeded to instruct them on the subject of the temple built by the great Ramesses. The four Colosseums of Rames himself, one pair on each side of the entrance, who, out of the living rock, looked down on the little straggling party of tourists. Signor Rochette, disdaining the remarks of the dragoman, was busy examining the reliefs of African and Syrian captives on the bases of the coleus on either side of the entrance. When the party entered the temple, a sense of dimness and peace came over them. They still vividly colored reliefs on some of the inner walls were pointed out, but the party tended to break up into groups. Dr. Besner read sonorously in the German from a Buddiger, pausing every now and then to translate for the benefit of Cornelia, who walked in a docile manner beside him. This was not to continue. However, Miss Von Schuler, entering on the arm of the phlegmatic Miss Bowers, uttered a commanding, Cornelia, come here, and the instruction had perforce to cease. Dr. Besner beamed after the vaguely through his thick lenses. A very nice maiden, that, he announced to Perrault. She does not look so starved as some of these young women. No, she has nice curves. She listens to very intelligently. It is a pleasure to instruct her. It fleeted across Perrault's mind that it seemed to be Cornelia's fate, either to be bullied or instructed. In any case, she was always the listener, never the talker. Miss Bowers, momentarily released by the perpetual summons of Cornelia, was standing in the middle of the temple, looking about her with her cool, incurious gaze. Her reaction to the wonders of the past was I don't know how to pronounce that. The guide says the name of one of those gods or goddesses was Mut. Can you beat that? Can you beat it? Death on the Nile. There was an inner sanctuary where sat four figures interpresiding, strangely dignified in their dim aloofness. Before them stood Lynette and her husband. Her arm was in his. Her face lifted, a typical face of the new civilization, intelligent, curious, untouched by the past. Simon said suddenly, "Let's get out of here. I don't like these four fellows, especially the one in the high hat. That's a mom, I suppose. And that one is the Messias. Why don't you like them? I think they're very impressive. They're a damn sight too impressive. There's something uncanny about them." "Come out into the sunlight." Lynette laughed, but yielded. They came out of the temple into the sunshine, with the sand yellow and warm about their feet. Lynette began to laugh at their feet in a row, presenting a momentarily gruesome appearance, as though sawn from their bodies were the heads of half a dozen boys. The eyes rolled, the heads moved rhythmically from side to side. The lips chanted a new incantation. Hip hip hooray, hip hip hooray. Very good, very nice, thank you very much. How absurd, how do they do it? Are they really buried very deep? Simon produced some small change. Very nice, very good, very nice, very expensive, he mimicked. Two small boys in charge of the show picked up the coins neatly. Lynette and Simon passed on. They had no wish to return to the boat, and they were weary of sightseeing. They settled themselves with their backs to the cliff and let the warm sun bake them through. How lovely the sun is, thought Lynette. How warm, how safe, how lovely is it to be happy. How lovely to be me. Lynette. Her eyes closed. She was half asleep, half awake, drifting in the mist of thought that was like the sand drifting and blowing. Simon's eyes were open. They too held contentment. What a fool he'd been to be rattled that first night. There was nothing to be rattled about. Everything was all right. After all, one could trust Jackie. There was a shout. People running towards him, waving their hands, shouting. Simon stared stupidly for a moment. Then he sprang to his feet and dragged Lynette with him. Not a minute too soon. A big boulder hurtling down the cliff crashed past them. If Lynette had remained where she was, she would have been crushed to atoms. White-faced, they clung together. Hercule Poirot and Tim Allerton ran up to them. Madame, that was a near thing. All four instinctively looked up at the cliff. There was Death on the Nile, but there was nothing to be seen, but there was a path along the top. Poirot remembered seeing some locals walking along there when they had first come ashore. He looked at the husband and wife. Lynette looked dazed and still bewildered. Simon, however, was inarticulate with rage. Simon, Good. God damn her. He ejaculated. He checked himself with a quick glance at Tim Allerton. The latter said, Phew, that was near. Did some fool bowl that thing over, or did it get detached on its own? Lynette was very pale. She said with difficulty, I think some fool must have done it. Might have crushed you like an eggshell. Sure you haven't had an enemy, Lynette. Lynette swallowed twice and found a difficulty in answering the light-hearted raillery. Come back to the boat, Madame, Poirot said quickly. You must have a restorative. They walked quickly. Simon, still full of pent-up rage. Tim trying to talk cheerfully and distract Lynette's mind from the danger she had run. Poirot with a grave face, and then just as they reached the gangplank, Simon stopped dead. A look of amazement spread over his face. Jacqueline de Belfort was just coming ashore, dressed in blue gingham. She looked childish this morning. Good God, said Simon under his breath. So it was an accident after all. The anger went out of his face. An overwhelming relief showed too plainly that Jacqueline noticed something amiss. Good morning, she said. I'm afraid I'm a little on the late side. She gave them all a nod and stepped ashore and proceeded in the direction of the temple. Simon clutched Poirot's arms. The other two had gone on. My God, that's a relief, I thought. Poirot nodded. Yes. I know what you thought, but he himself still looked grave and preoccupied. He turned his head and noted carefully what had become of the rest of the party from the ship. Miss Von Schuyler was slowly returning on the arm of Miss Bowers. A little farther away, Miss Allerton was standing, laughing at the little row of heads. Miss Otterburn was with her. The others were nowhere in sight. Poirot shook his head as he followed Simon slowly on to the boat.